Welcome back to Run Through TV, Ben Shepherd here, and today's conversation I'm super excited to share with you. The 10th overall finisher at the London Marathon, the first British finisher at the London Marathon, 2:27:59. Her name is Rose Harvey. She is brilliant. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and if you do at any point, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe here on Run Through TV as well. Just a reminder too, you can now listen to all of these conversations on the podcast feed, which is called Go On Running.
Hi everyone, I'm Rose Harvey. I'm a runner for Puma, and I've just run in the London Marathon on Sunday, where I finished 10th and first Brit.
The photos of the finish line, and we'll get to that finish line. Seems a bit weird talking about it at the start, but it's like pure elation. What was that feeling like coming across the line?
Oh, it's just all emotions. I couldn't believe. I knew from sort of halfway that I was in the first Brit place, but I still just couldn't believe it when I crossed the finish line. And yeah, I mean, it's just it's so sort of overwhelming and so much relief and just joy. It was amazing, but it's just so hard to kind of describe all the emotions you go through within the space of 2 minutes.
Taking it back to the start then, not of London, but of your running journey, I guess. Where did running start to be a big part of your life?
It was really the start of lockdown. I ran before. I ran for my club of Chasers, but I had sort of 100-mile-an-hour job as a lawyer.
Okay.
And so it was very much sort of running for just fitness and mental health, and just it was a real it was just hobby, and it was very much fitting around work. So some weeks I wouldn't run at all. But at the start of lockdown, I was made redundant from my job, and I had 3 months garden leave. So my original idea, and I'm still not really sure why I did this, but my original idea was I'd sign up for a half Ironman and start training for that. And this was when we thought lockdown would only be a couple of months. I thought, oh, great, it's a good project to keep me busy. I also did bake sourdough. Everyone's like, oh, that's a very ambitious lockdown project, but I did do all the usual things as well, don't worry. But yeah, I started training for this half Ironman, and I met my my then coach at Battersea, and he said, oh, do you want some help with your running training? And I didn't have a clue what I was doing, so I thought, yeah, great. So I started training with a group down there, and yeah, pretty quickly I discovered I was still absolutely terrible at swimming, and still am, but that hasn't improved. But I was getting good at running. So 11 months later, I had knocked nearly half an hour off my marathon PB, and it really just snowballed from there. It was literally, in my mind, it was going to be this summer project that I did, and a couple of months in, I was like, oh, I wonder if I could get a Surrey vest. That'd be quite cool. But yeah, a year later, I had an England vest. So it's been an absolutely crazy 2 years, and this year's been almost even crazier. I ran a big PB in Seville, and that led to sponsorship with Puma. I signed with them in May, and yeah, I mean that was me kind of making it as a professional runner. And yeah, it's just absolutely crazy to think 2 years ago my life was just completely different.
If you were to go back to Rose in lockdown baking sourdough and tell that Rose that in X amount of time you're going to be first Brit to cross the line at the London Marathon, what would she have said to you, do you reckon?
I mean, I think I would have said you're absolutely nuts. But I hope I would have said absolutely go for it, and you can do it, and just believe in it. Chase the goals, and anything's possible. But yeah, I think realistically I'd have said you're nuts.
Keep baking the sourdough, try banana bread as well. What's it been like then, that transition between a 100-hour work week, like you were saying, to training full time now as well? How did you go about balancing that right at the start, and now like you say, after getting made redundant, how has that transition into being an athlete kind of gone in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. It's one of those things. I wake up every day and I just have to pinch myself.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm absolutely living my dream. And, this summer's been incredible. I've traveled a lot, just, making most of all the opportunities, and spent some time out in America training with the Puma Pro team out there. And it's just, I just can't believe I get paid to do it. It's absolutely crazy. So it's just been amazing. Absolute dream. But at the start, I didn't sort of suddenly quit my job. I went part-time for a while. And I think, it was at the start when I was full-time, it was really difficult to juggle. I would just train. It was like Groundhog Day every day. You wake up, you train, you go to work, do a full day in the office, train, sleep, and then I just got to the weekend and I was like an absolute zombie. So it was, there is that time, and that's almost the most difficult bit. It's sort of getting to the stage where you can just, you're having to put everything into running and training, but you've actually got to also put everything into work, and it is really difficult to juggle those things. And I think it just got to the stage where, I was finding it hard to give 100% in both. I think it's very difficult to do. And I think it's just an enjoyment thing as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to enjoy two things absolutely fully and still have time for your friends and family and everything. So that, it was also in a way a bit of a relief to just be able to focus purely on running for a bit and put everything into that without feeling like I still had to put everything into something else.
When you wake up in the morning and you think, all right, like this is on the training schedule today, does that feel like a privilege now? Like this is actually your job? Like this is what you do day to day for a living?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still days that
you want to stay in bed.
Days where you get up and you're like, oh God, I do not want to go for a run right now.
I don't want to do that.
Everyone still has those days. But I think that's what I always remind myself. I'm like, you get to do this for your job, get over it and get out.
So was London always in the plan then? Was this something you guys were targeting?
Yes and no. It was, I always had it in my mind that if everything went to plan, and I was at the World Championships in July, and it's a very tight turnaround between the World Championships in London and our done Seville in February, so it's a lot. So I thought, if everything goes amazingly smoothly, I would love to get to London. But I was very much aware that I had 3 marathons to do in a year. And then when I went to Worlds and I got COVID, that was like a whole nother curveball thrown at me. And so honestly, I was training for London, but I was very much, I'm not going to fully commit to this until the last minute, because I didn't know if I was going to make it. I didn't know if I'd be able to get fit, or if, to be honest, I didn't even know if I was going to be like healthy for it. So people just seem to react like so differently to COVID, and it's scary how long it takes some people to bounce back. So yeah, it was very much up in the air to the last minute.
And then what was the decision to race then? When was that decision made? Like how long before the start?
It was about 3 weeks.
Okay, so it was tight.
Yeah, it was really tight. And to be honest, when I first, it took me about 2 weeks to feel normal after COVID. And I say normal, I was still getting really bad muscle cramps when I ran. So the first sort of, and by this time I'd gone over to North Carolina to train with the team. And the first couple of weeks were, I'd say first sort of 10 days I wasn't doing big sessions at all.
Yeah.
Very much easing into it. And there was definitely a lot of like, oh, I'm not sure you're going to be ready. But the coach that they were absolutely incredible. They kind of never lost faith in me. even when I'd have to bail out of a couple of workouts. But yeah, it was really when I left North Carolina and I sort of suddenly everything just came together, and all the sessions were going really well. And actually I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to be good for this. So yeah, it was kind of a late surge, but everything came together in the end. Although then 10 days out, I got hit by a car, which was it's honestly been my build-ups are not normally this dramatic.
Well, I mean, if the build-up has been this dramatic this time and you've done that, then with a good build-up, with a perfect 100% build-up, I guess that's only positive, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it kind of got to the stage where I think when I got hit by a car, it's just like, in a way, I'm grateful for it all, because I'm not sure if I hadn't had that whole roller coaster, I might have been like, you know what, I don't think I can do this. But I was like, you know what, I've got through everything else, so what's one more hurdle to get through?
Yeah, I mean, what's 26.2 after getting hit by a car and having COVID? COVID's so weird for athletes. Like, it is strange, like you said, how different people react to it. Some people just brush it off, and some people it really, really affects. And obviously, it did affect you. Yeah. What was that process of recovery like? Was it total rest, or how did you kind of mentally get through it as well?
I mean, to be honest, I feel pretty lucky. I think I bounced back pretty quickly, considering it was more. I had COVID at Worlds, and I ran. One of the symptoms, which was very unfortunate for a marathon, is I got terrible muscle cramps.
Yeah, definitely not ideal.
Not ideal at all. And I started within 2K of the race. I ran to about 22K with really severe cramp. And actually the worst, it wasn't so much the COVID, but I gave myself rhabdomyolysis from running through it, which is basically where your muscles break down so much that your body can't process all the waste. And I had to go to hospital for a day and have IV fluids and everything. It was pretty horrendous, and I felt terrible. It's like having the world's worst hangover, but you haven't had anything to drink, and it's just awful. So that was actually the sort of longest that was worse than the COVID, and it was more recovering from that. And I just had to be really, really careful. The British athletics doctors were incredible and kept the reins on me and kept monitoring me, and they were absolutely brilliant throughout the whole thing. So they really sort of helped me through it and made sure I didn't go back too quickly. But it was very much like day by day, just making sure it was okay.
Rhabdo is one of those things that I've spoken to a few people about. A friend of mine did the Badwater ultramarathon this year, he got rhabdo and ended up in hospital on like IVs and everything. He said it was literally the worst thing he's ever experienced.
Yeah, it's not pleasant.
Awful. and like you say, the recovery from it is not nice either, because it takes a while to get back to that point that you were at before. Yeah. Okay, on to London then. Standing on the start line, where was your head at? What was your race plan, and what did you think was the goal for the day?
So to be honest, I was the day before London. My knee was still really sore from my car incident, and it was the day before London. It was hurting to run every day, and it was just like getting through as much as I could.
So what actually happened with the car incident before we get on to London? What actually happened?
It was I was just running down to Tooting Common, my local park, and I was running on the pavement, and someone pulled out of their driveway and just didn't look, and I literally T-boned their bonnet.
Oh my God.
Knee took the full blow of it, and the worst thing was they were really angry with me for running on the pavement. But I know where they live, so I might just go and stick a poster of my face on.
First Brit.
Yeah. Thanks for the knee bruise. But yeah, it really like swelled up badly, and it was pretty touch and go. But the day before I did 3 miles sort of shuffle and tried to do some strides. I literally couldn't do a stride. So and at that stage, I was at the Elite Hotel, and I was like, you know what? I've got 2 options here. I can either run or I can not run. And there's nothing I can do to make my knee better at this stage. I might not get to 5K, but I've just got to do my best. And, you know, I felt like so many people have put so much into this. It had been such a roller coaster already. I was like, my best might just be starting, but I've got to give it a crack and I've got to just see what I can do. So really, in a way, I went into it pretty, not that many expectations. I didn't know what would happen. And it was just about doing my best on the day, whatever that was.
I think sometimes, having spoke to quite a few athletes, when people take the pressure off themselves, it seems to be that's when a lot of people have their best performances. And like you say, like there's been so many things leading up to this point. You got to the start line, you're not really putting any pressure on yourself for any specific goal. Is that something you've experienced in the past as well, just taking the pressure off and getting those good performances?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be honest, I feel like, and it's now sort of only reflecting on it, having had the whole London drama and that experience, that actually I think in the past I've just put so much pressure on a particular time, and it has either been more my downfall or it's just meant I haven't enjoyed it. And yeah, I honestly think, you know, that London was the most fun I've ever had in a race. It was amazing. I felt great, apart from my knee being a bit sore, but throughout it I just felt absolutely brilliant. And I think part of it, I was just grateful that my knee hadn't given out at any point. But I think I was just so geared up for making sure I had a positive mindset. And I was like, you know what, I'm a bit banged up, but what I can do is make sure my mindset is absolutely amazing,
like rock solid,
and that will carry me through. And I think sort of having all of that going in, it just made for a great race. I felt great, and it was it definitely was a big part to play in the result.
So gun goes, take off, first 5K. How are you feeling?
Yeah, all right. I mean, the first 5K is always a bit, it sort of takes a while to settle in. You've got nerves, and it always takes me sort of a few miles to get into the rhythm and just settle. But yeah, I mean, it's just London is just such an incredible atmosphere, and, you know, right from the start there were crowds, and it's just, it's an absolute buzz. And I think especially being on the elite start with, you know, absolutely incredible runners, it really is just one of those moments where you like try to take everything in, but also just sort of get into the rhythm and calm your breathing down.
Did you have a moment in the race at all where you looked around and you like took everything in and thought, oh my god, this is like, I'm here, we've got here, this is absolutely class?
Yeah, definitely. I think Tower Bridge was the first moment that I remember where I really was just like, wow, this is epic. I did London last year as well, and you know, we're still sort of semi in lockdown restrictions, and people were still told to stay at home. And I really just noticed the crowds were insane this year. So yeah, Tower Bridge was one of those nights. Cutty Sark as well was very cool. Again, just like so many people. And then I think actually in the last few miles, I really tried to focus on that, because I was by myself for the last 12K was a solo effort, and I was literally thinking like, get to the next big crowd. And that was sort of how I did it. I was like, right, just run to the next big crowd, you'll get a good cheer and keep going that way. So I actually really tried to notice it all.
And when you realised, right, you're going to get first Brit here, you're going to cross the line first Brit, what did that feel like when it, not necessarily when you crossed the line, but in the race when that was the realisation this was happening?
Oh yeah, I completely sort of changed my game. You know, it gives you just such a big boost when you're running for that. You know, you can just picture the finish line and finishing first for it, and yeah, it really does give you a boost. And I just, you know, in the race, I was just thinking, after like everything that's happened, it's not just for me, it's just for everyone who's kind of been through a bit of a roller coaster few months with me and dealt with all the lows as well as all the highs. You know, it's such a good feeling to sort of be able to end on a good note and kind of make it all worth it.
Remind people of the time.
2:27:59.
10th overall, first Brit. What's next?
A good rest.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But yeah, I mean, no more marathons for the rest of the year. Probably going to just focus on a good rest first. Really recover, and I've kind of rolled from one marathon build to the next, so definitely feel like my body needs a bit of a break. But yeah, just I think focus on some shorter distances from the rest of the year, a bit more low key, and then just figure out a plan for next year, really.
And one of the wonderful things about London is obviously you were right at the front of everybody, but there were so many people there for charity, fundraising, people wanting to get times, people just wanting to run it for fun. It's one of those events that is very, very special for somebody that maybe is listening to this that has never run London, but maybe is inspired to potentially give it a go in the future. Like, what would you say to somebody just lacing up their trainers for the first time and maybe looking at London as an overarching goal for some point in the future?
Oh, just sign up now. Just do it.
Yeah.
Don't question it, because the more you think about running a marathon and how far it is, the less likely you are to sign up. But just don't think about it and sign up, and it will be the best thing you've ever done. I mean, it's just such an amazing achievement. And I think actually it took me sort of once you crossed the finish line, it took me about 2 hours to get through sort of media and prize giving and anti-doping. So I saw a lot of the people coming through, 2 hours later, and honestly, just it like really pulls at your heartstrings, and you just see people go over the finish line with just so much emotion. You see like how much it means to them. It's just, it's so inspiring. It's awesome. So get that feeling and sign up.
A big thank you to Rose for joining us here on Run Through TV. I loved that conversation. I really hope you enjoyed it as well. Again, please subscribe to keep up to date with all of the videos we've got coming on the channel. Give this video a thumbs up as well, and I will see you very soon.